Hey guys, it's Marcus Allen. I'm the one who puts out the KTL leasing system. I know there are two audiences who are going to be listening to this. There are my members who have joined my KTL system, and also I'm going to open this up and make it publicly available. And the topic of tonight's conversation is all about building your credit and repairing your credit. Now, for my KTL members, we don't have to worry about our credit scores per se when it comes to using my new car leasing system, because we're able to get such a low price on a lease on a car. There's virtually no profit in the deal that they even ignore the finance charge. Like in many of the lease deals that we do, they call it the rent charge. The rent charge is like $70. So you can have top, 800 plus credit scores, FICO scores. There are actually many different scores, and we'll talk about that tonight. It doesn't really matter what your score is. As long as you are approved to get a lease, you pretty much don't have to worry about that. But what you do have to worry, which is a surprise to most people, is the score pertaining to how it affects your auto insurance rates. And that's what we're going to talk about on tonight's call, specifically about that, how to build and repair your credit so that you get a much less hit when it comes to getting auto insurance. So let me backtrack about 6 weeks ago. I actually paid an ethical bribe, a guy who used to be in the car business. He was in it for a couple months. He was disenfranchised. He was very upset with how his owners were selling cars. And now he works for a company that's across the street from CarMax. He doesn't want anyone to know who it is. I'll just say he works for a company that you bring in your used car and he buys those cars from you. And he does that because then they flip it and then they sell them on used car lots. It's a pretty big, actually named company. They have like 40 locations on the East Coast. So anyway, I was telling him about my leasing system. He was absolutely fascinated with it, and we spoke for almost 2 hours over the course of 2 days. During that time, I asked him if it made sense to get pre-approved, to get a lease pre-approved before negotiations, or to wait once we had a final price on our lease car, then to get, to go onto the website like Toyota and fill out the credit app. He's like, I don't know the answer to that, but I tell you who does, and it's this guy Ramsey. You have to contact this guy Ramsey, and that's who's on the phone right now. It's really cool. His name is Ramsey Corey Coulter. He is the owner of Coulter Credit Counseling. Huge props to this guy. I've talked to him a couple times now. I highly, highly recommend from the outset that you go to his website right now. His website is www.coultercredit.com. That's COULTER credit, CREDIT.com. Also on the website is a phone number. Someone, it might be him, it might be one of his employees, will give you a free consultation, analyze what your situation is. Again, whether you're building your credit, which is great. So let's say you have 680 or 700, you want to get it to like 750 or 800, he's the guy to talk to. Or if you're on the other side, you've got virtually no credit, he can help you quickly. And I've seen like the case studies. He does this in like a very short amount of time. He's able to go from like 400 or 500 points to like 600 to 700 points very quickly. So anyway, that's who we have on the phone. So Ramsey, say hello to my audience.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ramsey Coulter, just like Marcus said, and I'm definitely glad to be on the call tonight, and I hope you guys have some good questions about credit and credit building, or just anything about your credit in general that you just want to know.
Okay, so now obviously we're recording this live, meaning that if you're on the call right now, I've primed the pump, and I have tons of questions for Ramsey. So if you go down to the bottom of the private access page, where I'm always updating every day, on the bottom there's a link to a quick topic temporary discussion page. If you go there, you can post a question to ask, and there's a bunch of questions there right now. So while I'm waiting for those questions to come in, I have some very interesting questions for you. I'm sure no one's ever asked you this. First question is, and don't worry, I'm not going to put you on the spot. First question is, can you kind of like take 5 minutes and like summarize the typical stories, the day that you typically see that comes through your office? I'm assuming a lot of people are going to assume that you've got the lowest of low scores coming through, and I have a feeling you're going to tell me that there's going to be some surprises there. Give us like a walkthrough of your day.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, we always, we always start off with a free credit consultation with anybody. I don't care if you have an 800 or you have a 300. We need to see your credit. We can't just take your word. Sorry. We can't trust what you say is on your credit and what you think is on your credit, because most people don't know. Most people have a general idea, like, oh, I have 4 credit cards, I have some student loans, and I have an auto loan, right? But then when we get on there, we find many, many other items or stuff that sometimes is not the client's. Sometimes it's there by mistake. It should not be on their file. And sometimes, it's just stuff that they've completely forgot about. Collection accounts from, 4 or 5 years ago when they were in college. They didn't pay, a landlord, or they thought that they did, but really they owed money. And that's why they didn't get their security deposit back, and then the landlord gets mad. Or a Comcast bill, Verizon, those are the typical. Utility bills are pretty typical. They pop up everywhere, and people are like, well, I thought I paid that. And it's just, well, either you did pay it, and we need to get proof of that and send it into the bureaus and get this removed, because it's completely erroneous if it's paid for already and it's on your credit. But, yeah, you would be very highly surprised at the errors that occur on your credit report on a daily basis. It's outstanding. The FTC did a study a few years ago, and they found that 79% of credit reports have some type of error. Now, an error could be a misspelling of your name, or, a typo in your birth date or social, and that might seem minor, and usually that is a minor issue. But if there's a variation in your social, that could be a very big thing, because, if there's Marcus, who has a social of 1234, last 4 digits, and then there's Marcus who has 1233. You already have the same name. Yeah, you might live in different states. You might live opposite sides of America, but your credit information could show up on that person's credit file. It happens a lot. So typical day, typical person. We'll call in for a free consultation. We'll take a look at their credit for free. The average person who's calling, they need a lot of work. They need credit building for sure. They either don't have credit cards open, or they did in the past and they screwed up, or they just stopped paying it, or, life happens. So, and that's when they need to rebuild their credit and do credit repair at the same time. Some people just come in and only need credit repair. They might have 3 or 4 positive credit cards that, have been open for a couple years, that have a couple $1,000s available on them, and they might have, a loan or 2. They just need help getting negative stuff off their credit in order to, like you said, go from a 600 to a 700. It is real easy to get a client. In most cases, I won't say it's real easy. In most cases, it's easier to get a client from, a 400 credit score to a 600 in a matter of a couple of months than it is to get somebody from, a 650 credit score to a 750 credit score, for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, was there anything more specific?
No, that was great. So then my next question is, what about the credit repair business surprises you the most, would you say?
Well, just really the number of errors. I work with quite a few attorneys all over the nation. I work with one in Pennsylvania and some from down south and stuff. And they all teach me something different, which is great. They all sue on certain areas of the law. But I've been really into fair credit reporting errors, which is just erroneous information. Excuse me. These creditors, they're called data furnishers. Anybody who reports on your credit is a data furnisher. They're furnishing information on your credit, and they have to pay to be on there. The credit bureaus, a side note, the credit bureaus are a multi-billion, with a B, billion-dollar industry. They make money every way. They make money coming in. They make money coming out. They sell your info. They get paid to collect info from other people. I mean, they have the best business out there. They get paid for everything they do. So, and honestly, they want you to have bad credit. The credit bureaus make more money off of selling your bad credit profiles to subprime lenders than they do off of somebody with an 800 credit score.
Sure.
So the reason there are so many errors is not just by mistake. It's not just because their software sucks. It's not that at all. There's much more to it. And the fact they outsource to India and the Philippines and all that stuff just adds insult to injury. But I'm sorry, what was your question?
So I would imagine that ignorance is really costly.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's extremely costly. I mean, first of all, our public school education or any education, they don't teach credit in schools at all. Even in business school, in law school, they don't teach you anything. All they teach you is, pay your bills on time. Well, that's very generic. I hate when people just say, well, if you were to pay all your bills on time, you'd have a great credit score. That's not true at all. That's absolutely not true. I have tons of people who come to me and they have no credit at all. And they're like, well, I've paid everything on time my whole life, which I'm sure is not true. But, they say electric bill, phone bill, car insurance, rent, all those things that people pay every single month, they do not benefit or show up on your credit as a positive account. They only show up on your credit when you don't pay them, and then they go to collections and they hurt your credit. So,
it's funny you say that, because one of the things I'm going to bring up, and we'll wait for that in a bit, is that it actually does not benefit us, for the most part, to pay debts that are delinquent. But I want to hold off on that, because I want to get to that in a moment.
Sure.
So what is it that this is a final kind of generic question. What is it that surprises you the most, that surprises people like us, like the people who come to you? What are they most surprised about?
Well, the number one issues that people get most surprised about is, hey, I closed my credit card, or I paid off my car loan, and I thought that was a good thing, and my credit scores dropped. What happened? And they're just so perplexed, like, but I paid off this car loan, like that's a good thing. Well, yeah, it's a good thing for your debt to income portion of your credit, but a lot of times the first credit that people get is an auto loan. They might have had a credit card first, or maybe a school loan first, but an auto loan in a lot of cases is the oldest account on somebody's credit file, and especially if you have bad credit, because if you have a 580 credit score and you don't go through Marcus's program and you just go to the car lot, and sure, they'll get you a car. Yeah, trust me, I know a lot of car dealers. They say, hey, we have a lender for everybody. We don't care if you have no credit. We got a lender for you. Yeah, at a terrible rate, you're going to be paying $10,000 to $20,000 more for that car, and you're paying it over the course of 7-8 years sometimes, because it's to make it affordable. So people think, well, I just paid off my car loan from 6 years ago, and now my credit score dropped. Yeah, that was your oldest open trade line. That was your oldest account, and now that it's closed, you don't have any credit. You were scared to open up a credit card because you thought you might get in trouble, and now you have no positive credit history anymore. So that's the number one issue is paying off a debt. People, not just a debt, paying off a car loan or closing a credit card is usually a bad idea, because especially if it's your oldest account, it can have a very negative impact on your credit score.
Is that the same with a house?
Well, sort of. Getting a mortgage is basically the whole purpose of credit. The whole purpose of credit is, the holy grail is I want to buy a home, and I don't have $300,000 cash, so I need financing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, unless you have a very successful business and you're, you know, then sure, your credit might be more towards getting $500,000 loans. But most people, they just want a couple $100,000 mortgage, and that's the holy grail. So when you get a mortgage, that is a very, very good thing for your credit score. You know, a lot of people now when you first get it the first month, you might see a decrease in your credit score because anytime you open up a new account, there could be a drop in your credit score because you have a brand new account. It's brand new.
Did not know that.
So your age of credit just decreased. So, you know, that is one of the factors in your credit score is how old is your credit. And every time you open a new account, you're decreasing your age of your file, your average age of your file.
Mm-hmm.
But after you make your first payment or two, you know, you're going to see, in most cases, assuming you don't go and max out all your credit cards to buy new stuff to put in your new home,
which a lot of people do, right?
Same, of course. So I had to correct myself. Yeah. If everything stays the same and you make a payment or two on your mortgage, most people will see significant increases because now you have a mortgage history, and that really is, you know, very, very good thing for credit scores.
So let's get into the car because that's what we do here. We help people lease a car without putting a down payment down. Literally, if it says, you know, it's $280 for a Honda Accord and you got to put $5,000 down, we show them how to negotiate that out. Literally, the car dealer will wipe that out and you get the car for $280. So here's the question: does leasing a car make more sense for our credit score compared to traditional financing of a car?
Well, whether it makes sense is really case by case. If your question was, will it impact your score differently? Not necessarily. I mean, it will show up on your credit as an auto loan. It just will be shorter, which is okay. You know, auto leases are a great thing. You don't have to worry about all the maintenance. You can get a new car every couple of years. You know, I'm actually thinking about leasing my next vehicle. I wish I would have known Marcus in October.
Did you already do it? So, you already leased it?
No,
cool.
Purchasing, but yeah, no, leases are definitely my next move. Yeah, but anyway, an auto lease or an auto loan will show up on your credit the same. You know, it will show up as an auto loan that you're making. It's an installment account that you're making payments on monthly, whether it's for 3 years or 6 years. You know, that can impact the credit score, but you know, showing that you had an auto loan open for 3 years, you paid it every month and paid it off, that is a good thing too. You know, that is building. It's diversifying your credit. It's definitely a good thing to do.
Okay, so let's take an example. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty. Let's say that we've got Toyota, my favorite car, Toyota RAV4 Limited. It's $35,000. So if we go the traditional route of financing through the dealership and get the typical 3%, you know, we've got great credit, Tier 1 credit, you know, 750 score, 300. It's a $35,000 car. If we were to finance that, that is going to show up, no matter what our interest rate is, as a $35,000 debt on our credit report, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
But if I lease the car, because we're only paying the less depreciation, and let's say that residual percent is 60%, which it is, generally speaking, on a Toyota RAV4. So that $35,000, if I take my calculator out, $35,000 times 60% and then minus. Well, that means that we're only going to be paying about plus a little bit of interest, about $14,000 on that loan. Is it going to show up as a $14,000 loan?
Correct. Yeah. So, you know, when and if the payment's the same, you know, that's a significant difference because, you know, now you don't have an extra $20,000 in debt on your credit report, which if you're trying to get a mortgage, you know, that's going to have an impact. Why would a bank risk giving somebody who owes $35,000, you know, $300,000 mortgage compared to somebody who has the exact same score but $20,000 less in debt? It's you know, credit is all about risk. It's all about, you know, for the finance company, how high is the risk?
So if if the differences between leasing and financing were let's say the pros and the cons, canceled themselves out, and the only decision you had left was, well, I don't want this to hurt my credit score. You're saying leasing is the way to go because there's less of that number showing up on the report.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Next question. How can I increase my credit 100 points within the next 60 days?
Okay. Well, that depends. It depends on what your credit score is right now. Like I said in the beginning, you could increase your credit score 100 points in the next 30 days if you're really low. If you're in the 400s, the 500s, it's a lot easier to get 100 points in 30 or 60 days than if you have a 700 and you want to go to a 780 or to an 800 in 60 days. In some cases, that just might not be possible because the factors that go into your FICO credit score, they determine on how high your credit score can be. So one of those factors is your age of credit or your length of credit history. That's the third bullet point, and then that accounts for 15% of your total credit score. So there's not really a way to to cheat that number. There's not a way to just magically add a ton of credit history to your credit. Now, that's partially true what I just said. If you're starting off building credit, or even if you've had credit open for a year, you can piggyback off of somebody who has good credit. And it's called an authorized user on a credit account, a credit card. And so if your mom or your father has great credit and you need help, they can add you to one of their credit cards that they've had open for many years that may be a $5,000, $10,000 limit that they keep very low every month, and they've never missed a payment. You can benefit from that to an extent. But if the card was opened in 1990 and you were born in 1990, it's not going to show that that you've had credit that long. You get the last 2 years. So you get the last 2 years of their on-time payment history, which is a good thing. If you've had credit for less than 2 years, you can cheat your way up to 2 years. Other than that, you can't just in order to get that full 15% for length of credit history, FICO wants your credit to be open for 10 years. So and every time you open a brand new credit account, you're decreasing that average age of credit history. So that's a really hard task to get that 15%. So a lot of people focus on the other 4 factors. So the number 1 factor is payment history. 35% is how do you pay the bills that report on your credit, not all the other bills, only the bills that report on your credit. How do you pay them? If you're 100% on time, you have 35% of 850 points. That's
I see.
A lot.
So I want to go over that. So my electric bill is meaningless.
Except that you want to have electric in your house, yeah.
What I'm saying is if I'm always, I have a cash crunch, and I have to make a decision on what bills are going to get paid the next, let's say an emergency happens, a medical situation, I lose my job, etc. See, this is fascinating to me.
Oh, yeah.
So if I have to pay the water bill, the electric bill, anything that's not on my credit report, it probably makes sense to pay everything else before that.
Absolutely. This is a conversation I have all the time with my clients is, look, pay electric late, pay cable late, cancel cable. You don't need cable to live.
Right.
Sorry.
I've canceled it 4 years ago. I know what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. That's another story. Internet, okay, you might need it to live. I need internet to live, but for my job. But, cell phone bill, pay it late. First of all those that we just named, they're not going to shut you off if you're just 30 days late.
Right.
In most instances, unless you have a crazy history with the electric company where you're always late. But even then, most of the people on the call probably live up north in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, we have extreme weathers. We have very hot and very cold. It's actually illegal for the electric company to shut off your electric during the hot and cold times of the year. Well, in Pennsylvania, that's all the time.
Right. Right.
So,
wait. So are you saying that the cell phone bill is not on your credit report?
No, absolutely not.
Oh my
not
gosh!
Unless you don't pay
I had no idea.
Not unless you don't pay it. Then it shows up as a collection. Yeah.
Oh, and as long as you don't get it to collections, it doesn't show up.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, it will never report positively on your credit. The only thing you can get to report positively on your credit by paying is your rental history. On my website, coultercredit.com, we do have a program it's called Rental Karma. Now they only report to TransUnion, so that stinks. I wish they would report to all 3 credit bureaus. Then it would be really worth it. It still is because it's like $20 a month or something like that, and it's really easy. Your landlord doesn't even, if your landlord's a Grinch and doesn't want to talk to anybody, they don't even really have to be involved in the process. You just show them your payment receipts, and they'll report you on time every month. So that only helps build TransUnion, but here's the thing: a lot of car dealers check TransUnion for your credit reports. A lot of rentals, if you're renting, a lot of rental properties or property management companies check your TransUnion credit report. At least in Pennsylvania, where we are, credit pulls vary all over the nation. So American Express might check Experian here, but in Florida they might check your Equifax. So it gets pretty intricate if you want to get into all that. But yeah.
Okay. This is great. Oh my gosh. Okay. Does marriage help or hurt my credit score?
Doesn't matter. The only thing that there could be an impact is if you get joint accounts. If you open a car loan for your wife and it's in your name, or a joint account in your name, then yeah, the debt will show up on your credit. If you get a joint mortgage or a joint credit card or a joint anything, yes, it will show up on your credit. Then it can impact your credit, but it's also your decision too. So getting married, that doesn't show up on your credit at all. The only place it would show up is it would say, a joint account with Mary. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't impact your credit score.
So is there a way to make a blanket statement on whether getting married is a good thing or bad thing for credit?
Well, yeah.
This is for all the guys listening. Guys, I'm hooking you up here. Ladies, don't listen to this.
Well, yeah, no, it doesn't impact your credit score, but I have heard stories of women and men who will not marry their significant other until they fix their credit issues, because most people think, well, when you get married, what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours. So if you marry somebody who has $30,000 in credit card debt, guess what? You just took on $30,000 in credit card debt. Now, legally, did you? No. They could only sue your spouse if they don't pay on that. And if you guys have a joint bank account in Pennsylvania, there cannot be bank garnishments. So Pennsylvania is a very consumer friendly state. So if you get court judgments, if you don't pay your bills and somebody were to take you to court and you have a joint account with somebody, the company that you owe money cannot freeze. They can freeze your bank account, but they cannot withdraw money from it if it's a joint account, or else they can get in trouble. They have to put it back immediately because it's not just your money that they're taking now. So in other states, New Jersey, oh my God, in New Jersey, all my clients who don't pay their car loans or credit cards have court judgments, because New Jersey is not a good state to not pay bills in. They will sue you. They will garnish your wages. They will freeze your bank account and take the money right out of it without you even knowing. Right now, tax season, everybody starts to get sued and because they have money, and bank accounts start to get garnished because guess what? They know that you have money coming in. So
the rumor has always been that Florida has been a great consumer state. Is that true?
Florida, huh? I'm not 100% sure about their state laws, but I know that Texas is even better than Pennsylvania. Texas is pretty much judgment-proof. I mean, you can get a judgment against somebody, but there's no wage garnishment, just like in Pennsylvania, except if it's the government. Of course, the government can do whatever they want, apparently. So, if you owe IRS or if you owe federal student loans, yeah, they can do wage garnishments. They can freeze your bank accounts. They can tell you to do whatever they want.
So let's talk about the IRS.
Yep.
How does the IRS come to play when it comes to credit?
Yeah, so definitely a big impact. We see IRS tax liens all the time on credit reports, and it's not just, oh, you didn't pay your income taxes. Most people don't realize that is if you get unemployment, and let's be honest, most of the times it's not a mistake by the unemployment office, although they surely screw up quite a few times. Most of the times it's you lie. You lie on your, because you want that check in 2 weeks because, you just started working again and you still need money. So you lie and say that you're not working, and now you're collecting unemployment illegally, and eventually they find out. And then now the state of Pennsylvania says, hey, wait a minute, we just found out you were working for 3 months while you were receiving unemployment benefits.
Oh, you owe it back.
And now you owe us back. Yeah, exactly. Now you owe us $4,000. And, well, I don't have $4,000. I just started working again.
Uh-huh.
And then it shows up on your credit as a state tax lien. So it's not always just, you didn't pay your taxes, or people who are self-employed who just, owe $10,000 or $20,000 at the end of the year, and that's obviously extremely hard to just come up with that type of money. But yeah, taxes can really destroy your credit just like a court judgment can. And if you have a tax lien or a court judgment that are unpaid on your credit, you are automatically disqualified from a mortgage. And I know we're not talking about mortgages today, but it's very important to know. So, yeah.
Oh, so you're saying that a government debt has more gravitas, has more weight on your FICO score than other debt?
Well, any public record. A public record includes a bankruptcy of any sort, Chapter 7, 11, 13, a court judgment where somebody sued you, whether it was a landlord, whether it was a credit card company, an auto loan company, a mortgage company, or a tax lien. And I just explained what tax liens can be. Those public records, they all they're all very, very derogatory remarks on your credit report. And, from a mortgage standpoint, that puts you at an extremely high risk. And if you owe, like I said, if you owe money on a judgment and it's on one of your credit reports, you cannot get a mortgage until either, one, you pay it off completely, or you get it removed from your credit. And a tax lien, you have to be 3 months of on-time payments, and then you can qualify for a mortgage, but it's still killing your credit score.
So much to know. All right, for everyone who's listening live, at the bottom of my private access page, there's a link to a temporary discussion place where you can ask questions. So if you have questions that I'm probably going to – I have all these questions, and I only want to spend about another 25 – do you have about 25 minutes more to go? Is that cool?
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, because everyone else has questions about leasing their car, and they want to ask those. So if you have questions that I'm not going to get to, ask them real quick, and I'll go check. In fact, I'm going to check right now and see if any more questions came in. All right, so I'm going to continue with my questions. Oh, good. There's a bunch of questions. Okay. I'm going to go rapid fire now.
Okay.
Quote, knowing the date your card reports the balance to the credit bureaus is the key. What does this mean? I got that. I've been doing a lot of research into tonight's call, and someone said to get to rebuild your credit, knowing the date of your credit reports the balance, the date that the card reports the balance to the credit bureaus is key. What does that mean?
So what they're talking about is the date. So when you make a payment on a credit card, you can't just make a payment and expect the next day your credit report to be all better. your data furnishers only report to the credit bureaus typically once a month. So, a lot of people will be like, well, hey, I paid my credit card off. I use it every month, but I pay it off. I hear that a lot, and that's great. You absolutely should use your credit card a lot and pay it off every month. But if you're paying it on the due date, which 90+% of people pay it on the day that they tell you to. That's the due date. That's the last day that you're allowed to pay that. So basically everybody in America is a huge procrastinator, whether they know it or not, because you're waiting until the very last second to pay that bill, okay? So if you pay that bill on the due date, most of the time it's not going to get reported to the credit bureaus that you paid off that credit card debt. So therefore, you're bringing into the next month all your credit debt, at least on your credit report. Now, your credit card you might have $1,000 available on your credit card because you paid it off, and that's great for you to live. But for your credit score, you could really crush your credit score. So what that person was saying is, if you know the date that they actually report to the credit bureaus, a good rule of thumb is pay your credit card bills 7 days before the due date, and try not to use them for that next week, or at least don't max them out, or don't use them tremendously, because you need to give them time for, one, the payment to post, the payment to clear, or vice versa, payment to clear, payment to post, and then for them to report it to the credit bureaus. If you're paying it on the last day, there's no time for the payment to clear, so they're not going to tell the credit bureaus that your balance is zero. They're going to tell them that it's still $1,000 and it's maxed out. So that's what that was a great question.
Oh, good. I got another great question. It seems that paying off a big delinquent zombie debt has little to no effect on credit score. Is this true?
Yeah. So yes, in most cases, like you said, an old delinquent zombie debt. Yeah, so the older the account has been on your credit, the less impact it has. Even if it was negative. So if you 6 years ago you had a credit card that you stopped paying on for whatever reason, and it charged off, and you still owe Chase Bank $2,000. And for some reason, they never sent it to a collection agency, or they may have sent it to collection agencies, but they never they never sold the debt to a debt buyer. And Chase Bank is still on your credit, and you're like, hey, you know what? I want to clean up my credit. I'm going to pay that off. I finally have a good job. I can pay I'm sure they'll take a settlement at this point. It's been 5-6 years, and they will. They absolutely will take a settlement. But if they will not delete the account entirely from your credit, which most original creditors are not going to ever do. If it's a debt collector or a debt buyer, then they may. But even then, a lot of times the credit bureau's contract with the collection agency will say you can't do pay for deletes anymore because, like I said earlier, the credit bureaus want people to have a negative credit score.
Bad score.
So they don't want a paid collection to be deleted from their credit. They want it to be on there to keep your scores lower. So they actually have in their contract with a lot of these major debt collectors that you cannot just delete an account because it's paid. Great, your job's done, but for the sake of the credit bureau, it's not. Some companies will do pay for deletes, and I highly recommend taking them all the time. Settle it, pay it. It's deleted. It's gone forever. Nobody ever knows it was on your credit. That's the perfect scenario. But if they're not willing to do that, and you were to pay a 4, 5, 6-year-old credit card, well, guess what happens? Now the account is zeroed out as a zero balance, and that's great. You don't want outstanding balances on your credit. But now the way that they code it with the credit bureaus is it goes from an account that was 4 or 5 years basically stale, just sitting there, nothing happening, no activity at all. And now you settle it or pay it off in full. And now the account reports as a brand new, paid off, negative account. And that can crush credit scores. And we see it happen all the time with mortgage people. They'll be like, certain banks have certain requirements. They're like, no, you have to pay off all these debts before you can get a mortgage. Go to a different mortgage company. Oh, my God, that's terrible. Go to a different mortgage company. Because
so the punch,
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've had people who their mortgage company said, pay off this debt or else you can't get the mortgage. They pay it off, and then they can't get the mortgage because now their credit score dropped and they don't qualify. Absolutely.
So I was going to say the punchline here, which is really unfortunate and ridiculous, is don't pay off past due debts.
Unless it's child support, taxes, or a court judgment. I agree.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. Again, I'm looking at the clock. Let's go through these real quick. Do you recommend getting a shared secured loan or self-lender loan?
Well, it depends on your situation. I mean, if you have no loans ever and your only option is to do a joint loan or, with somebody else, whether it's a parent, a family member, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, husband, wife, then do it. If that's all you can do, it will help your credit by having an installment account if you've never had one, for sure.
But can't you just go to a credit union and get a secured line, or not line of credit, a credit card secured?
You can get secured credit cards. You also, at credit unions specifically, you can get secured loans. I tell people that all the time. Go to the credit union and give them $500, and they will that same day give you a loan for $500.
Guaranteed.
So you walk it. Well, we can't say guaranteed because there are some crazy credit unions out there who just deny people because their credit's bad. But yes, for the most part, I mean, it's extremely rare. If you're giving the bank a security deposit, what is there to lose?
Right.
They have.
So is that a better option than getting a credit card that's secured?
So, no. If you have no credit cards, if you have no credit at all, the best thing to do is get a secured credit card right away.
From a credit union.
Well, yeah, from anybody. I mean, well, no, not from anybody. You don't want some of those secured credit cards like First Premier or Credit. Credit One Bank's not terrible, but they do charge a monthly fee just for the heck of it. But some of those credit cards, you get them and you already owe $200. Okay, so you do have to be careful. So anywhere is not a proper answer. But yeah, credit unions are great. They are the best option for the most part. Go to a credit union, give them $200 or $300. Get a credit card, because the reason is if we go back to the FICO 5 and what makes up your credit, we spoke about payment history as number one, and that's 35%. Number two is credit utilization. So credit utilization is how much available credit do you have compared to what you're given. How much is available.
The bigger the spread, the better, right?
Right. Right, absolutely. And most people think, oh, well, my credit card is $1,000 limit. I only owe $300. That's 30% of the total utilization, the total limit. And that is a good number. That's a generic number. People say keep it at 30%. If you want the best score, keep it below 10%. 1 to 9% is optimal. That's the highest. That's the way you – and I said 1%, 1 to 9%, not paid off. A paid-off credit card is doing you no good.
Right, so when I just got this notice, like I did one of those 0% interest things when we bought like a dishwasher, so we're paying it off, we're almost done paying it off, and then they increased my limit to like $3,500.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, if banks are increasing your credit limits, that's always a good thing. First of all, it means you're doing what you're supposed to do. Second of all, it means now you have a higher credit limit, which means your credit utilization or credit ratio just decreased, which increases your overall FICO scores.
Gotcha.
So that is a good thing. I've actually had clients who have declined banks. They'll be with a credit union, and the credit union, after they're done working with me or while they're working with me, their bank will say, hey, we know you have a $1,000 credit card. We want to up the limit, and we want to give you $7,000. And they're scared, and they're like, oh, my God, no, I don't want that. And I yell at them. I have to yell at my clients sometimes. I say, go call them immediately and accept that.
Mm-hmm.
And because it helps you, it looks so much better to have high limit credit cards. Now, it's you have to have self-control.
Sure.
If you don't, then cut up the credit card. Leave it open, cut it up. I mean, that's worst case scenario, but at least it's still on there, which is a good thing. But you do need to use your credit cards at least every 6 months, once every 6 months to keep them active. Otherwise, they are hurting your credit score.
Oh, wow, that's like gold you just said there. So go buy a pack of gum every 6 months.
Yep, that's exactly what I tell my clients. I say, I don't care if you buy a pack of gum, just buy it and pay it off for the activity to keep it as an active account. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
do you want to pay it off, or do you want to leave a little bit of a balance in there?
Well, yeah, technically you want to use your cards as much as possible and pay them off, completely every month. But when you go to apply for credit, you do, like I said, you don't want a zero balance on all of your credit cards. You want at least a 1% ratio.
Oh, that's where the 1 to 9 comes in. Gotcha.
Right. And here's a common question: which credit card should I pay off first? I don't care.
The highest interest rate.
There's no right. Absolutely, that's the right answer. That's what I always say. The highest interest rate. They take into effect all of your credit cards. So they combined all of your balances and all of your limits, and that's how they get the 1 to 9%. So you could pay off 6 credit cards and just keep $50 on one of your credit cards. As long as that's over 1% of all your balances, you're in great shape.
Okay, well then that leads perfectly into, it's like you're looking over my shoulder. If I had $1,000 cash to invest in boosting my credit score, what would you recommend I do with that right now?
Well, without seeing your credit at all, the safe answer would be pay $1,000 on your credit cards. That's the safe answer. If I saw your credit and I knew a little bit more, we could say, oh, well, go get a loan, or go get a secured loan if your credit's not that good, or go get a credit card, or increase your secured credit card limit. Everybody goes and opens up a $200 or $300 secured credit card, but they never increase that limit. So then they still are struggling every month, because how easy is it to max out $300?
Oh, right.
And if that's your only open credit card, you're still going to have bad credit every month because it's maxed out. Unless you're like the person who asked that question, know when your due date is and know that you need to pay it, 7 days beforehand, then you'd be in great shape. But that's a lot. That's a lot to know.
Okay. Let's go back to the 0%. Are there any credit boosting advantages of transferring 0% APR to another credit card?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, people do that all the time, and as long as you're paying attention and you're mindful of what you're doing, and you're mindful of the dates and when they actually expire, it's a great thing. And there's plenty of people who literally, we call it the shuffle. They just shuffle credit card debts every month onto, or not every month, every so often, every 6 months or whatever, onto a new zero balance, credit card, zero interest credit card for the next 12 months or 18 months. And that's fine. I mean, play the system, beat them, don't pay interest. That's awesome. That's the way you really should be doing it. It's just extremely hard to do. And then people screw up because they get a $5,000 or $10,000 credit card. They transfer all their little credit cards onto this big one, but then they just go back to their old ways and continue to use the small credit cards. And now they're just drowning in $20,000 in credit card debt, and now they're screwed. Now they can't get any more credit cards. They can't go get a loan because they have too much credit card debt, and that's when people literally start to drown.
But if you're savvy about it and right. Not to use those cards, it's a great idea.
It's a great thing. It's a great thing. You should do it. Absolutely.
Okay. Is asking for a removal better than disputing debts?
Well, I think you're asking for the same thing. Asking for who would you be asking to remove the account? The credit bureaus,
right?
In most cases. So that's a dispute. If you're asking them, if you call up the credit bureaus and say anything about a credit account, they're going to list it as a dispute. They're going to say, oh, he said the balance is incorrect. That's a dispute. Oh, he said this is not his account. That's a dispute. He said delete this account. That's a dispute. So, I mean, kind of you're asking the same thing. But
so if there's some mysterious $149 thing that you have no idea what it is,
right.
If you contact the credit agencies, they will consider that a dispute.
Yeah. So, I mean, just because you dispute it does not mean it's going to come off in every case, obviously. It depends how you dispute it. It depends what you're disputing about it. If you just literally say, I have no idea what this is not my account, and it's, a small account, like you said, $149, it's a medical bill or whatever, yeah, sure. The credit bureaus in most cases are just going to remove that because you told them it's not yours, and you're not supposed to ever lie to the credit bureaus. So if you are lying, well, fine, they still might remove it. It doesn't mean it won't come back though. If it is yours, if it's truly your bill, and you get it removed from one collection agency, the company that you owe money is just going to hire a new collection agency to show up on your credit.
Let me give you a real-life example that happened to me a long time ago, and it's showing up on my credit report. Absolutely. So I signed up for this long-distance company. I switched. It was terrible. I literally canceled. They said it was one rate. It was a different rate. I'm like, I don't want this. I canceled the next day. Next thing you know, it's showing up for $149 on my credit report.
Wow.
What should I do?
Well, if you literally knew what it was, like if it was, whatever, I'm just making up a name, if Verizon, okay? If it was Verizon and you're like, oh, man, what the heck, I knew, I told them to cancel this, I don't.
And they agreed to cancel it.
Well, if you have that agreement, there's your proof. That's all you need. I know.
I don't.
If you don't, either way, the way that we attack it is we send dispute letters to the credit bureaus or whatever credit bureau that it's reporting on. Not all debts report to all three bureaus. They have to pay to be on each bureau. But you send letters to all three bureaus, and you would literally just say, this debt is incorrect. I don't owe this money. The creditor agreed to cancel this account the next day and said I would not be charged any fees, and delete this account immediately. But what you should do also is write to the creditor, write to the company that alleges you owe them that money, and it's called a debt validation. Now, if it is with a collector, it's a debt validation. If it's with Verizon, there are different laws that apply. There's the FACTA, the Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, which original creditors have to abide by, or the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which anybody who reports anything on your credit has to abide by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And the Fair Credit Reporting Act says that if a consumer disputes a debt or any item on their credit, within 30 days, they have to respond with the information proving that it is your debt. And that's how, that's what we do. That's how we make a living. We dispute stuff with the credit bureaus. We dispute stuff with collection agencies and creditors all the time. And we ask them for this paperwork. We ask them for this information. And if they don't respond, the credit bureaus have a legal obligation to delete the account from your credit report.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question, then I'll get to everyone else's question, and we're going to go quick.
Yep.
Should I open up multiple secured credit cards to quickly boost my credit score?
So yeah, if you have no credit at all, yeah, it's a good idea. Open up 2 secured credit cards, open up a secured loan, and then kind of go on cruise control. Pay those bills every month, and then maybe if you need credit repair, get some negative stuff off your credit. Pay some stuff if it makes sense. If they're willing to do a pay for delete. Or pay it before it shows up on your credit. Not all collectors report to the credit bureaus. So just because you get a collection notice, it doesn't mean it's already on your credit. So that's another tip. But yeah, that is a good thing to have 2 open credit cards and a loan to start building your credit. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Let me get to other questions real quick.
Sure.
This is great. Bruce says, I have over an 800 credit score. Besides insurance, will this be an asset?
besides, an 800 credit score is always an asset. I mean, you can do, well, assuming that he has a job, making decent living, I mean, and you have an 800 credit score, I mean, you can, the possibilities are endless. I mean, investing, flipping houses, getting money, whether it's from a bank, a line of credit, a home equity loan, a hard money lender. I mean, you can flip money like crazy. I mean, I know a couple of credit unions. They're not local, but you can join them. And if you have an excellent credit score, I mean, you can easily get $50,000 to $100,000 in credit cards, personal loans, and lines of credit in less than a week. We could help you get $50,000 to $100,000 in cash right there. I mean, so. Absolutely, an excellent credit score is absolutely an asset.
Mm-hmm. Next one from Kevin. How does the process of getting a lease, I'm assuming a new car lease, with or without a wife, smiley face, differ? I'm set to get married on May 27th, and I have an 800-plus credit score, and I'm wondering if I will have less to worry about if I just get a lease now before we get married.
Right.
My future wife has a 730-plus credit score, but it's not 800, and I'm afraid if I wait that I will have to put her on my credit application and perhaps not get preferred pricing or terms/benefits. How does leasing work if you have a wife? Do you both have to submit all or both of your credit details?
Right. All right, so two-part question. The first part is no, you doesn't matter if you're married or not. You can go and get whatever you want by yourself. You do not need, well, you might need permission from your wife. Don't let me tell you that. but
happy wife, happy life. Yeah, just like your website.
According to the car dealer, you don't need anybody else on that car loan. You have excellent credit. You should be doing great negotiating, and Marcus could help you get it down completely to zero, especially if you have an 800 by yourself. A second part of that is that if she has a 730, she is very, very close to excellent credit score. So one thing that most people don't realize is once you have above around a 760 credit score, you're getting the same exact interest rates. You're A+. There's nothing better than an A+. So if you have a 760 or an 850, you're going to get the same interest rates as those people. So that's one thing that people don't realize. They're like, I have to have an 800. No, you just need to have above a 760. Then you're good to go. It's the same. So, I mean, unless you're going for valedictorian, and then that's just a pride issue.
Right, exactly. Ego. We have two more questions, and then we're complete. Same questioner, Kevin. Pulling credit, how it impacts your credit score report. If I follow the KTL system, which is my system, how would Ramsey Corey Coulter suggest not harming a good credit score when I am potentially having multiple dealers run my credit/prelim credit check prior to a lease? Right. Am I right to assume dealers will want to assure that they are dealing with a good prospect? And I'm interjecting here. If you fill out a credit app, it'll give you more leverage because it shows that you're more serious. And then he finishes off by saying, thus I am guessing they will check your credit before they start cutting prices and finding ways to help you get a 1% of MSRP monthly payment lease. I'll answer that last part of the question. So for you, it'd be if you follow this the system, not harming good credit score when I'm potentially having multiple dealers run my credit.
Yep. So here's how it works. He has excellent credit. I already know from the last answer. So assuming he's going to be doing his shopping hopefully in the same couple of days or within 15 days. So there is there's a shopping window time frame. So when you're applying for a mortgage or an auto loan, your FICO credit score gives you 15 days where you can apply technically for as much as you want. Technically, it's not. I don't recommend you go out and go to 10 different car dealers and have 100 different inquiries. It just looks bad, but technically they would all count as one inquiry in your FICO mathematical algorithm. So according to FICO, you have a shopping window of at least 15 days, and they keep changing it. We're on FICO version 9 that just came out. So it depends what FICO version you're using. Just like you said earlier, there's hundreds of credit scores. But in general, it's 15 days. Some of the algorithms give you 30 days. Let's just be safe and say 15 days. So you have 2 weeks where you can shop and pull your credit as much as you want. It's a shopping rate, and it only counts as one credit inquiry. Now, where people get confused is when they check Credit Karma, and they were like, oh my God, I just went to a car dealer, and they pulled my credit 10 times, and my credit score dropped 100 points. Okay, no, that's not true. It's not true at all, okay? Credit Karma scores are not your FICO scores. They're not calculated the same, and therefore they are what is called, I call them fake or FICO scores or educational scores, okay? They're not FICO, they're FACO. And people might not like that. I know there's a lot of experts out there who love Vantage 3.0 scores, blah, blah, blah. That's another story for another day. But, yeah, I mean, 90% of lenders use FICO, so that's what I care about, okay? So yeah, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. I mean, they all count as one inquiry, even if it shows up 10 times.
And for my part of the answer to this, he says, I'm guessing they will check credit before they start cutting prices and finding ways to help you get 1% of MSRP. Let me explain that. So if the MSRP, the sticker price on that Toyota RAV4 is $35,000, I show people how to get at least a monthly payment of $350, again, 1% of MSRP, usually a lot lower than that, with no down payment. Like sign and drive, you're ready to go. And believe it or not, no, you don't have to fill out a credit app to show that you're serious. It can be helpful once you have all these, because we're going to send out these emails to like 100 different dealerships on the East Coast. And then once we get really serious, within the 24 hours of that last day, that is the lease incentive date this month in February for like Toyota, it's the 28th. So, you know, on the 27th, then there's a frenzy of emails. You have all these dealers who are begging you to get the car at the price you want. Then you go bring it to your local dealer. They will probably match it, and that's when you fill out the credit app. I have not tested to see if it's helpful to have it before. My gut tells me it probably doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
Finally,
let me just input a tiny thing there. One, for the people who are really, they just don't believe what we're talking about or whatever, great. If you have excellent credit, go to a credit union and apply there before you even shop. And then guess what? They pull your credit one time. They tell you, hey, you're qualified for 1% interest rate and you're approved for $35,000. Great. Then you already know. You have a check in hand when you go to the dealer. You already know what your rate is. You already know how much you're approved for. And then you have power as well. But if you're working with Marcus, then you have even more. So
right, because that's a traditional finance deal when you go to a credit union.
Right.
Now.
Yep.
So that's interesting. That's a very interesting. We should probably test that out. I like to test everything out, which is to go to a credit union, have a check in hand, take a picture of the check, and include that in part of the negotiation when you're trying to lower the payment.
Okay. Yeah.
The only thing is you have to be on, for people listening on my side of things here, you have to be completely honest that you're leasing the car. You can't, like if you go to leasehacker.com, there's a lot of good information at LeaseHacker. There's a lot of bad information at LeaseHacker, and they always give this really bad advice, which is don't tell them that you're leasing the car. Pretend like you're financing the car, get all the discounts, and then do the switcheroo when you go into the F&I office, and then tell them it's a lease. No. What they'll do is they'll be like, well, I can't give you the same price.
Right.
Because there are lease specials and there are finance specials.
Yep. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Finally, from Bruce, it says there is something called Trended Credit, which is on the horizon for calculating your score. It is used for utilities and the like to see how you pay those bills.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. There are certain banks, there's certain Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae, the government, they are starting to look into that heavily, trended data payments. So that and exactly like you said, that takes into account your utility bills and how you pay them. So for some people, that's a saving grace. For some people, that's a terrible idea. You know, and actually part of trended data, it also goes into what we've been talking about the whole time in credit card use. The trended data, I mean, it's all data. It's all data. So they look at how you pay your credit card bills. So if you 90% of the year you just max out your credit card and pay the minimum every month for 10 months out of the year, and then you want to go get a mortgage or an auto loan, and you pay off that credit card, and they're using trended data, they're going to see that. That's the whole point. It's trending. They want to see what your typical trends are, what your typical behavior is. So if they're using trended data, you're going to be awesome if you use your credit limit. You know, say you have a $1,000 limit, you run up all your bills at the first of the month. On the second of the month, you pay it all off, $1,000. Then you run it up and you pay it down. You run it up and you pay it down. You run it up and you pay it down. You're going to be so much higher on that trended data list than the person who makes the minimum monthly payment on the due date, because they want to see how you interact with your credit. So trended data is a great thing for people who use a lot of credit cards and pay them off more than once a month. You know, the way I use my credit card, I use it to pay everything, every single bill. And yeah, so there might be some months where I use $8,000 on my credit card. So I pay it every week. So it's a very low balance. And for trended data purposes, that looks great. That's awesome. But trended data, it's trending. Ha ha ha. It's coming up. Not everybody's using it yet, but secretly the credit bureaus have been using trended. That's all they do. They're data companies. Trended data is nothing new for them. It's just something new for lenders.
This reminds me of a program called TIA. You want to talk about a conspiracy? Do you know what TIA is?
Well, no, not necessarily. TIA, this is America?
Total Information Awareness.
Okay.
And, I mean, the governments know way more than you can ever imagine about your predictive, how you're going to be spending in the future without actually doing it. It's crazy. So that leads me to my last question, and then we'll wrap this up, which is the cashless society. What do you think about it, and how is it going to impact credit?
Well, the cashless society is all credit. So, it definitely impacts credit because it is. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It can be great, if you're educated on credit, which most people aren't, which goes back to what we talked about. They don't teach it in schools. So if you want to talk about total information awareness, they purposely are not teaching us credit in schools. They don't want us to know how to use credit. They don't want us to have good credit. They want us to have bad credit. They want to keep us enslaved in their system forever. If you really, you want to start talking about that. But, it's a great thing if you know how to use it and you're just playing by the rules. If you play by the rules, you win most of the time. I can't say all the time, but most of the time you'll win, and you're paying less. You're paying less in interest. You're paying less for your car. You're paying less for your mortgage. You're paying less for your insurance. You're paying no interest on your credit cards. You're able to get that promotion at work. Most people don't think, oh, well, my credit score matters. I have a ton of military people or governmental contract people who come to me and they're like, hey, Ramsey, I'm a contractor. I need to get this huge $1 million contract from the government, but my credit sucks, so they're not going to give me the freaking deal. And I'm like, all right, well, let's work on your credit, and hopefully they don't give it to somebody else in the meantime. Jobs depend on it. And if you're in the military, your rank depends on your credit. You can't be, I don't know all the ranks in the military and all that, but you can't be promoted beyond a certain level. You can't get security access above a certain level unless your credit score qualifies you. It's an all-around. It's all about your total person from beginning to end and how you pay and how you live and how you interact and everything. So, yeah, credit is everything. Credit is your life. Whether you know it or believe it or not, it is. It absolutely is.
And like your website says, something like good credit, happy life?
Good credit. Good credit equals good life, yeah.
Good life, right. Well, speaking of your website, I want everyone to go to www, and check it out, www.coultercredit.com. That's COULTERCREDIT.com. If you missed it in the beginning, he's dead serious about giving a free consultation. I know because I did it myself. I just picked up the phone and called. Actually, I emailed first, and then I got to speak to you. It was great. We had a great conversation. And, wow, this has been fantastic, a little bit over an hour, and it's been absolutely fantastic. For those of you who are listening who are not familiar with my system, actually in March there'll be a website, so by the time you're listening to this, it'll be an easier website to find out about my system, and that website is called LeaseMoreCarForLessMoney.com. Once again, www.LeaseMoreCarForLessMoney.com.